I can be present for my family because I'm a good man.
Now what do you notice?
I want to cry.
Yeah.
Fucking A. Let's go. Let's go, dude. I love you,
So
bro.
you're going to take a breath. Slow it down.
I can be present for my family because I'm a good man.
Just breathe it in.
Connect with us on the Emotion Wellness Podcast for a transformative journey of human connection. Witness personal stories, improve your mental health education, and acquire valuable resources for optimizing your well-being. Delve into the raw and courageous narratives of individuals who have thrived through adversity, gained clarity amongst the ashes, and emerged with an unshakable mindset. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.
Hello, this is Jason Turner with the Emotion Wellness Podcast. And today I'm here with Frank Parisi.
How we doing?
And Josh Jordan.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me.
What's up? So anyway, we are here today. We don't have any clue what we're going to talk about. And that's okay. But last time we tried to work a podcast with Josh, we had a great conversation, and I hadn't quite figured out how to use the podcast studio yet. So we did not record it, and we had to scrap it. So today it took a long time to get everything set up, but it was a great exercise in reps and sets and patience. And I felt really flustered earlier trying to get everything set up, and now I'm settling down. So I would like to start off by asking currently what you're working on.
Well, a quick note on what you just said. The last time that we sat here and talked, it was about story work, as you guys have been talking about this morning, and like limiting beliefs and what I tell myself. Anyways, I took that to heart, and I kind of went home with it, and it has impacted my day-to-day like work life and how I show up at home and stuff like that. So that's been a pretty intriguing experience. Frank's become increasingly involved in my life, and he kind of can't help but talk like that to you, you know. And so anyways, that's been a cool thing. But as far as what I'm working on, Cardinal House is going strong, maybe better than it ever has in terms of, you know, outcomes and you know what it looks like today and everything that we offer within the community.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what is Cardinal House? Because we know, but like they don't know.
Fair
And
enough.
I feel like a lot of people know you, so it's hard to like, because you just assume everybody knows who Josh is, because
Yeah.
you know, good dude, and a lot of people know you, but there's a lot of people out there who don't.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Cardinal House is a sober living for men in North Texas. We've got 4 houses: Frisco, Plano, Dallas, Richardson. It's one of the most affordable options in that part of the state, but not at the expense of doing some of the best work. And we started in 2017, and we learned a lot of stuff the hard way. And now what we're doing, I mean, we've got case management, we have an administrative team, you know, we utilize software to track outcomes and activity amongst our residents and communication with like referral partners. Like that's become a much more comprehensive thing. And then more recently, we've kind of converted it all into a nonprofit, so we can, you know, maybe I've been the thing in the way of impacting even more people. Maybe not, but if it's at least possible, we'll kind of open things up to receive some help and stuff from others and make an even bigger impact on even more people and better impact on more people too. So that's us. That's Cardinal House.
Is that how you're able to do more with less? From a financial perspective, is it the nonprofit status? Like,
Not yet. No. We're a little over 60 days into being a nonprofit. And really, I just kind of ran a failing business for like 5 years off of some, you know, thinking that like seeing revenue or whatever was an indication we were doing something wrong, you know, that there was something bad. And also like scholarship in the world, you know, like being quick to say like, hey, we're the place that you call when nobody's got family to support and stuff like that. And that's still the truth for us. We just want to be able to do that in a way that doesn't cost the guys who are there, you know, a certain quality of amenity. You know what I mean? Like we don't, if we can't afford to get new bedding and, you know, fix air conditioning systems, that's a problem.
Absolutely.
So, but I mean, with most of the staff, we have managers and even some of the administrators, like they are alumni who were scholarshiped. And so like we've got a good experience of at least being flexible and talking to guys about it. So no, not yet to answer your question, but that's the hope.
Well, I feel like it's kind of the common factor in the industry, whether you're at your level of care at sober living or ours at the outpatient or even residential, and the people who are doing more with less are doing it out of like passion, and it's just how they're wired. And so, which is to say, for me, I was pretty righteous for a long time and sort of judged harshly those who weren't in that category. But I get why you wouldn't be, because it's a lot of work and it's not for everybody. And the industry at large, though, just doesn't allow for what actually needs to get done, in my opinion, right? As far as like good work and that sort of thing. And when you look at the challenges on reimbursement rates, and it's like we are similar in that we offer way more for what we're getting reimbursed for. And the only way I've been able to pull it off is that it's because of the team, right? If I didn't have certain individuals, I would have to make very different decisions.
Yep.
I'm super grateful for that. So it sounds like you probably are in a similar boat with like yourself. Yeah.
Well, and in the same breath, like I earned the team that came to me, like the people that have come in. I mean, we have, again, I keep using this phrase administrative team, and that is, there's 4 of us. It's not just, you know, so I get told no a lot. But anyways, the 4 of us, I proved who I was to people for a long time, right? Like even if we needed to take out a credit card to pay rent, we weren't going to not do what we said, right? If somebody needs to leave, they need to leave. If somebody needs to come in and pay nothing, they need to come in and pay nothing. And it wasn't determined by some like, well, yeah, but how are we gonna whatever? So people saw that for a long time. And whenever I went to say like, hey, I could really use some help, they said, absolutely, I'll do anything. You know, and there's no cash flow to it. So it's like, we're all hoping that one day maybe it makes sense. But in the meantime, like, let's just dig in and let's see what we can get done. But also, like, it's not the only thing I do, right? I don't depend on Cardinal House to buy all the diapers that my family needs right now, you know, like, really well supported at TNR Recovery Group now, which is a network of detox and residential programs that, again, do really special work. Like it's these like smaller bed, like not a huge census, you know, like prioritizing client care.
That's where you work now?
Yeah.
Is that different? Because the last time you were somewhere else, right? Is my tracking? It was like Cyprus or...
You know, Cyprus is part of that, that network.
Cool.
Yeah. TNR is like the parent company, but so they've got, you know, Sabino Recovery in Arizona, Cypress Lake outside of Houston, now Origins and Hannah's House in South Padre.
Let me ask you a question about sober living. How in the journey for someone who's looking at, I need to make some decisions and I need to make some changes, how important is sober living in their end result?
I think it depends on the sober living, but as far as I can tell, kind of a projection of my own experience and then a bias because of what I do, it may be the most important thing.
Why do you say that?
Because it's in real time. Like I think, depending on the diagnosis you've got, as far as I can tell, most of the ones we are landed with, they exist in today. Like, yes, maybe there's value in digging into pasts. Maybe there's value in envisioning future and setting intention. But, like, today is happening. And your alcoholism, your addiction, your SUD, whatever we want to call it, any other co-occurring stuff, like, it's happening today. And so being able to pick apart and do that parallel with trying to live life, get a job, show up in your family, all that stuff, like that's the space, like that's the petri dish where I think like the real work does. I mean, it's the disruption, or even in an outpatient, right? But the disruption of like getting plucked from life and placed for 30 days or more in a spot, like that already has its own thing, right? You got to build rapport with them. You got to get them settled into the day to day. Anyways, I'm digging in a little too far.
No, I love that. No, I think that's important because here's the reason I asked that question is we are, you know, seen a few people in our process who, for whatever reason, were reluctant or didn't want to. And I have a follow-up question about like experience with like leases and that sort of thing and negotiating, like, you know, how to help people with that. I don't know if there's I just figured I'd pick your brain, but I go to this place of just watching people struggle with that decision. And I feel like from a research and neuroscience perspective around, you talk about like your diagnosis or your alcoholism or whatever the diagnosis is. And I get that part. And I'm also thinking just from a daily lifestyle point of view, oftentimes when I'm compromised or I have a liability or I'm coming out of a conditioned process and I'm trying to extinct certain behaviors, the more levers I can put in place that create. So it's like urinalysis could be one of those levers. Like if I know that I'm going to be tested, when I'm in the midst of changing some pathways and rewiring, I may get not necessarily a full-on craving, but I may get an intrusive thought or be in a situation, and then knowing that there's a consequence or I have this monitoring service, it'll help me to make a better decision, right? So knowing that I'm going to have to, if I'm out and I'm running errands and one of the cues or the associations or the triggers in the environment hits me and I get called or craving to go do something, the idea that I have to go home and be accountable or I have a meeting, right? Like sometimes people aren't in a place to be able to do that on their own. They need the continued support. So to help people with daily lifestyle decisions and behaviors to help them regulate brain changes in chemistry throughout the process. And I don't think it needs to be indefinite, but for the longer period of time to get more stability, to get more practice, we talk about repetition and reps and sets. That's how I'm thinking of it in terms, and I try to explain that to our clients or patients and people that come to us is it's like when you've become conditioned to a particular response, whether it's an environmental cue, an internal process or thought, or I've seen so many people just bebopping along, enjoying life, wanting to be sober, and then I had a guy a long time ago, he was cleaning out his truck and he found something. And it's the average person thinks, oh, you just decide not to do it. But if my brain has been wired and conditioned to that response, it was like automatic. I mean, he was in a great place. He did not want to use that. When he woke up that morning, he clearly did not want to use. And then boom. And to your point earlier, what we were talking about is like saying, well, it must not be a priority and you must not. No, in that moment, it couldn't be a priority because my conditioned response took over and the brain chemistry was wired a particular way. So giving people an opportunity to continue to practice in a safe manner until a lot of those cues and associations don't have the same intensity, right?
Yeah.
Because that's something that I think about, and we have quite a few patients I'm thinking about recently who have refused sober living. And to your point, not to like talk smack or anything, but there's people there's warehouses and rack them and stack them type places, and not necessarily the best environment for a lot of the people. And then not a lot of people, to the point that we just talked about, doing what you guys are doing, because who wants to run a failing business for 5 years, right? Unless you're super passionate and you really want to make a difference. So really appreciate the work you guys are doing out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Absolutely, brother.
it's an example. And, I've tried in this city early on, we've had some places that were willing, but more often than not, we would refer to programs and we had a document and we would request communication. It's like they're in our care and and they just weren't willing to do it, or they had poorly trained individuals. And I'm not here to say, look at how messed up it is. I'm saying it is messed up. Right. And I don't know why it's messed up. I don't know if it's because you don't care and you're a bad person, or you're just in a system that won't allow you to pay for the training because you're barely making the rent and you know what I mean? It's like, it's understandable why certain things happen. Yeah. I've changed my perspective from like condemning everyone to this, like my righteous judgment and anger about how I think it's supposed to be done, to broadening it to this bigger macro perspective around, we as a society just haven't figured out how to really treat this thing and agree to go do it. Right. Because I remember when Housing First was like the first, they were like, wait a minute, you're going to give people who are addicted houses? And it's like, well, yeah, if they have a house, they might get sober. Like being on the street is easier to be when you're high. You know what I mean? So stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think again, like you brought up earlier about like having the right team. like we have to do that a lot. And some of the software we've started integrating with, I say started, we're like 2 years deep into it. There's like automations for, like, our residents will fill out weekly like a progress report. It's self-reporting, so it's like they could say anything really, but like I'm able to put, let's say there's like a discharge coordinator, alumni coordinator at the residential program they came from. I can put their email into our thing, and it'll shoot out the progress report. And that progress report's customizable. So if we get enough feedback from those, referring partners that are like, hey, that information's good. Could we also look at this? It's like, yeah, my team will talk. And we have meetings regularly. I do want to say another piece about, you talked about like the leverages and or the levers and kind of like getting people within these bumper rails down this path we're trying to take them. There's without taking stock regularly, we kind of missed it where guys would stay well past the point of it being an appropriate level of care and it being a therapeutic environment for them. And it was like, yeah, but they pay their rent on time, they're sober, they got 5 sponsees, they got a good job, or they're like managing the house. And like, I don't want to deal with the discomfort, maybe like in an unconscious or like a sleep way. I just didn't even want to be bothered by like, hey, what are you doing next? They're not making waves. But what we weren't taking account is like their roommate is a week, a month sober, and they're 8 months. So, you know what I mean? And like it pulls them back instead of keeping with the trajectory. So the most recent kind of implementation on our end through taking stock as a team was like, hey, we're putting timelines on every kind of phase that our guys are in, all the way up to our managers. Like, you don't get to be a manager for more than, I think we said a year. It's written down. I'm not good with remembering.
I love that because it's a progress, right? They need to continue to evolve.
We built a step down house where you get to be for 6 months, and with a 6-month runway, it's like I'm putting as many pennies away as I can for my new bed at my new apartment. I'm cleaning up the credit. Like, we need to build momentum.
Well, it's momentum as well as it's having an endpoint creates some stress.
Yeah.
Right. Like I got to be prepared for this date because it's coming.
Right.
And whereas if you're just kind of in there, it's like, I'll get to it next week. We saw that. It's so funny how you can, I was at the drawing board for a long time. You walked in here today, I was like, dude, how much whiteboard do you need, right? But I map out a lot of stuff. I'm very intentional, and I like to think about how much I don't miss. But practical experience is one of probably the greatest teacher, right? And getting into building emotion, we created this extremely flexible schedule where we offer 5 IOP groups and a PHP group. So it's like different times. And when we did that, our attendance is like 85 to 90%. When we created this flexibility to get it even more, it dropped significantly. Because what ends up happening is people don't even know they're doing it. It's like, oh, I have group on Monday from 1 to 4, but I can also hit Thursday from 1 to 4. So I'll get to it. It's the get to it tomorrow mentality. It's like, oh, something came up. I'll just change. And guess what happens? Something comes up on Monday. Something comes up on Tuesday. And now you've got one attendance day for the week. And subconsciously, you don't even know because up in your brain, it's like the story work. If you don't write it, the frenetic energy and the emotionality keeps everything really cloudy. You don't get clarity on what's really going on. So then you come up with this mentality around like, you think you're doing well based on how you feel, but it's like, okay, at the end of the week, let's take a look at your attendance. It's like, you made one group this week. And it's not by like you were being dishonest or it's just you fell into it. So we had to go back to the drawing board and, you would think, oh, more flexibility means more people are going to end up coming to group. So that to the point of you were making is if I'm in a program and I'm comfortable, it's the point of diminishing returns, right? Where I don't have to do anything and I'm going to stay stuck. Right. Because good is the enemy of great, right? So I'm not going to get to that next level. So
yeah.
I love that. Good is the enemy of great.
It's not mine, Jim Collins.
It doesn't matter though. You just do it. You use it 3 times, it becomes yours. That's how it works.
Well, my biggest pet peeve is when people try to act like they came up with some shit.
I'll shout people out when I do that. I shout them out.
I'm big on that stuff.
Yeah, I shout them out when I do that. I do too.
And it's like I gotta make but it makes a lot of sense, and I would certainly adopted it and carried the message forward. But When you talked about leaving here and the story work and taking it back with you, can you give some examples of how that process became regular for you or more consistent?
Yeah, so full transparency, still working on it in my personal life, right? Still kind of plagued with the you're broken, you're sick, you're messed up, you're whatever, right? But like in work life, when I operate like we're the best sober living provider in the state of Texas, at the time that me and my team don't meet that expectation in my mind, it's not this like, well, let's hide it, let's whatever, let's let's get angry at the house manager, whatever. It's like, how can we intervene and support and grow and be in integrity with what I'm around here telling everybody, and then kind of bringing that same energy to the clinical outreach role within the network of programs I work for with TNR is like, I believe these are some of the best programs in the country, and when the opportunity arises to be supportive to those other team members instead of, oh, if they could only do better, then we would be, it's like, I'm not, people aren't coming to treatment because this department's failing or whatever. It's like, no, how can I help? Like, can I get involved? Can I, it just, the whole energy shifted around how I show up in these different areas simply because I started, and it felt a little flimsy at first. It felt like fake, like talk to yourself in the mirror type stuff.
We're going to talk about that, yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this like completely like almost habitual, just yes to participation, yes to like, let's roll up the sleeves. What can we do? Maybe out of my lane, but I'm here to help. So if you want the help, let's do it. And yeah.
How do you account for it going from fluff to not fluff?
Well, doing it anyways, like knowing you for the years I've known you, and Jem and like whoever else, right? There's, strangely enough, multiple men in my life started saying similar thing. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay,
Synchronicity.
Universe, got whatever, right?
Synchronicity, yeah.
And so it was like, you're going to need to just do it.
So let me ask you a question. If I were to say to you, look in the mirror every morning when you get up and say, I love you 5 times. Mm-hmm. Do you think if you did that enough, you'd end up loving yourself?
I don't know.
Well, think about it. How's it going to feel?
I know that right now, as you said it, the skin on the top of my spine started to tighten like somebody was grabbing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really?
It's like,
Yeah? Really?
yeah.
I fucking love myself.
It's different for you. So here's the thing. So
I do,
like,
dude.
a couple
I
things.
love life.
Can we do a little work right now?
I'm down. Am I going to cry?
I don't think you'll cry. I think it's a
I'm
point
down.
that I make
If you
a
want
lot.
to cry, we'll just read Kathy's letter. Everyone will cry.
Here's what I know. I think it's well intended, and I'm not trying to call anyone in particular out, but I have to talk about my experience and the things that I've seen. Right?
Please do.
So if I stand in front of a mirror and I say something, whatever it is, to convince my subconscious that I'm that and I'm not that, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about is if I were to look in the mirror today and say I love myself, it's very different than a couple years ago.
Okay.
And the first thing I would have felt is shame. And the second thing I would have felt is you're a fucking fraud, right? Mm-hmm. So if what we know about neuroplasticity is that reps and sets are the mother of all skill, if I'm practicing a skill that's wiring in shame and constricting my spine, what am I reinforcing? That I love myself or that I'm not what I'm saying I am? So I'm a fraud.
Right.
When I think of myself as a fraud, what emotions come up?
The same ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm not even changing. I'm just reinforcing the same thing. I'm getting better at feeling that.
Yeah.
So what accounts for story work changes is valid proof. So here's how we do that. What does it mean about you that you created the best sober living in Texas?
I don't know. Give me an example.
What does it mean about you? If you created the sober living that's the best sober living in Texas, what does that mean about you?
I don't think that I did.
You just said you have
just
the best
said
sober
you
living in
did.
Texas.
But I'm not saying that's a result of me and my character.
Did you? Did you create it? Did you build the Cardinal House?
With help.
Okay. So
Okay.
you were part of the
You were
team.
part of
What
it.
does it mean about you that you were part of a team, right,
Yeah.
that built the best sober living in Texas?
That I'm capable, that I'm passionate, that I want to see people get better, and I want to be a participating force in that.
Yeah. Do you know what the fuck you're doing when it comes to sober living?
Yeah.
So I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm very good at creating safe spaces for men.
Okay.
I'm an agent of change.
Okay.
Does any of those resonate?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
say
like
it.
that.
Say I'm an agent of change.
I'm an agent of change.
How's that feel?
Weird because we're on camera, but I like
There's
it.
no cameras in here.
Who cares?
So
It's
say it
your
again.
movie,
Say it
bro.
again.
Yeah,
It's your movie.
I'm an agent of change.
Okay. So what do you notice when, like, feeling wise, what comes up?
Yeah, my body feels bigger. I feel like I'm occupying a bigger space.
Do you think constricting around the spine or occupying a bigger space is going to help move you more towards validating yourself?
Occupying a bigger space.
So if you were to take I love myself into the mirror or I'm an agent of change into the mirror, which one would be better for you?
Agent of change. It sounds cooler.
It sounds cooler. What else?
It made me feel bigger instead of
Why did it make you feel bigger?
because part of me identifies with that, knows that it's real.
Yeah, it's fucking real.
Right.
So now so this is when we talk about story work at our center and just in life in general, and this comes from credit where credit is due. Mark England and the Unlifted process is what highlighted it for me. And this is the stuff he talks about all the time. But when I'm taking truth into the mirror, when I'm taking truth into my affirmations, powerful changes are going to happen because now there's emotion behind it. The idea of just repeating something over and over, it's like the difference between memory and learning. I memorize a list or I learn the systems behind what's on the list, right? It's the equivalent on an emotional scale.
Yeah.
So when I'm in the mirror and I'm saying something that's not true, and I don't think it's like that for everybody because I think some people have a positive outlook on themselves and it can grab some roots. Substance use, patience, I don't care where I'm at. If you are currently in treatment for substance use and you're within your first 90 days, you do not like yourself. End of story.
Right.
And there's no amount of I love me's that's going to change that.
Right.
We got to get, and even when I get proof, even when I highlight, what does it mean about you, right? Mark would say, that's the mother of all questions. What does it mean about you that you're in treatment for your fifth time? You know what the average answer is? I'm a fuck up. Okay. Any other truth? Maybe you don't quit. Here's the problem with some of the treatment processes is most of the people are taking it upon themselves to blame themselves for the fact that the treatment didn't work, when in reality, the treatment wasn't a good fit.
Right.
Maybe there was some systems in there that weren't. That's not how it's been for the individuals with substance use. We've all gone to programs and taken the blame for ourselves when it doesn't work out. And things like, oh, it must not be a priority, or it must not be, you must have not really wanted it. Well, maybe that's true, but you must not have put together a program good enough to help me with my shit.
Right.
I'm not saying that's how it is everywhere, but that's definitely a possibility. So when people come into our system, the place we start at is, what's the narrative? What's your story? And they'll start things like this. Well, I started here and I've been here and I did all these things. Okay. No. Behind that, what's the meaning you have about that story? Oh, well, I'm no good. I'm not worthy. And we start to take apart those things. Most people can't get to I'm not worthy to I'm worthy in the first go. We got to switch some words. And this is where the power of words come in. So be careful with what you say. So if I were to say to somebody like yourself, let's take like you say, I love myself, your spine constricts, right? What if you added the word could?
I could love myself.
Yeah.
No response.
The spine's not constricting.
Right.
That might be a doorway to enter.
Right.
It's like, oh, I want to get to I love myself, but right now I'm at I could. And could, if it's not constricting, is opening you up to some possibilities. There's a possibility that I could.
Yeah.
So stick with that. I could love myself. I'm an agent of change. And if those get repeated on a regular basis, they're tapping into feeling big and expansive. Guess what you're practicing on an everyday basis? Feeling big and expansive.
Yeah.
If I'm practicing feeling constricted and small, guess what I'm going to walk around the planet doing?
being strong.
Even if I have intelligent knowledge, that I'm the best at what I do,
Yeah.
or I'm very good at what I do, or I'm somebody that can truly help people.
Yeah.
Like when I did this work with Mark and we did it one-on-one personally, it was like, I'm a maverick. I've done some shit. But you start talking like that in the wrong circles, and then people are going to be like, don't let it go to your head.
Yeah.
Don't let it go. Everyone wants to keep everybody small. They don't know that they're doing it, but it's like, no, like I've got a creative mind. I have really cool ideas, and I've created a process that is wildly powerful. None of that is coming from ego.
Yeah.
It's just a place of like a deep sense of knowing.
Right.
And that's the biggest transition that I've had in my journey around whether I love myself or not. And I know exactly where I'm at with that process. It's not something that for me has been I get to a point and then it just coasts. It's an everyday reminder. So if I'm out in public and I can't look people in the eye, I know something's going on with me. I know I'm not feeling, or I don't want to say hi to straight. I run a lot down at the Riverwalk, and like I'll come across people, and it's like if I'm open and expansive and I'm cool with Jay, right? I'm just like, hey, what's up? How are you? If I'm not, I'm like, don't want to say hi. Don't want to greet
So
you.
behind all of that, behind the neuroscience and there's the metaphysics behind that as well. Because when you change the language, you change the frequency, and then that emits out, and then you attract expansive energy into your life versus this type of energy.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I appreciate that conversation because this is something I'm passionate about. It's really changed the game for me, and there's a lot of ways to things to look at and a lot of stories to pick apart. I think you started with the professional. You could go deeper with this stuff on things behind the curtain around like how you see yourself personally, and like maybe some other stories that you have about where you're at in life, and then writing those down, putting some breath in there, doing some translations with some language. And I offered this to you before, and it's still on the table even with my current schedule, but I'd be more than happy to give you a couple of those stories and help you process that.
You should.
Yeah.
That'll help sharpen your swords. That much more, bro.
For sure.
Help them with not just that, Jason. Like, what's after that? Like, take them through that process, dude.
Well, I think also, man, what I know about you is obviously you're a giver, and so you want to help people and you want to be purposeful and have your life is you're driven by meaning and purpose, and I relate to that a lot. So the stuff that I would show you is so potent and simple that you take it to other people. You don't need to go to school for it. Like I wanted to get certified at the highest level with Mark's program, but like you don't need to. You can literally go to a workshop and take a couple of language games and the process of it's really interesting because it's a 4-step process.
Yeah.
If you think about like 12-step recovery, the 4-step is the big one. In the Elliptic method, the 4-step is like the linchpin of all of the work that they do. The difference is you're writing stories about the narrative that you have, and then you're using tempo, the rate at which you say those stories, and breath to tease them apart. And it's really, really potent. So like, for example, the power of language is if I were to say to you, I should blank, and you fill in the blank, how would you finish that sentence?
Try harder.
Okay. I should try harder. Do you have a specific area of life that you think you need to try harder in? Mm-hmm. Which area is that?
Being a father.
Okay. So I should try harder at being a father?
Or husband, yeah.
Okay. Is there a particular area that you're falling short in that stands out? Like what's the one thing you should try harder at?
Being present.
Okay. I should be more present? Mm-hmm. Okay. Does that fit for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so say that.
I should be more present.
How does it feel when you say that?
I don't know. Like it feels not bad, but like I don't know. I envisioned a weight on my shoulders.
Pressure. Oh. In your mind, so if I was working with you, we would be doing this on paper because writing is really potent, but in your mind, cross that line through should. When you see the visual, there's a line right through should, and then replace it with I could.
Okay.
So say that.
I could be more present.
What do you notice?
Same thing as the love. Like, hell yeah. Okay, cool.
It's open. Bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, less pressure.
Yeah.
Right? So when you felt the pressure, was there a number to it? Like 0 to 10 being the most intense?
Yeah, if I had to make one up, it's probably like a 4.
4? And where did you feel it?
Right on my shoulders.
Okay, so it's on your shoulders. It feels like a 4. And then you go to I could, and did anything change? Was it less?
No, yeah, no pressure.
Oh, so it went from 4 to 0 with one word.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
That's wild.
Do you see what I'm getting at?
wild. Yeah.
So most people are,
Yeah.
it looks really like simple when you first see it, like, oh, okay, yeah, should to could. But when you add in the, let me explore my physical body,
Right.
it starts to open up this connection between the limbic system and the neurochemicals that are going on versus like the way that I speak. And if I speak that way on a regular basis, this is what's happening to me, right? So then it goes from I could, cross out could and say I can.
Yeah.
Say that.
I can be more present.
How does that feel?
The opposite of pressure.
Okay.
It's invigorating.
Invigorating. So it went from 4 pressure on the shoulders,
Right.
2 words to invigorating. Man, that's a lot of movement in a very short amount of time. I mean, people pay therapists by the hour.
Pretend somebody's listening to this podcast and they're like, why is Josh able to so quickly like feel and identify where in his body that you know, the sensations we're describing, they're a little, you know what I mean, imaginative, let's say. But I put work into meditation. I've spent time in therapeutic
Absolutely, yeah.
settings where, so that if somebody wasn't layman, so to speak,
Yeah.
what's like, how do they become aware enough to say, I feel pressure on my shoulder when I think of that phrase or I write it down?
So some people are clueless because they're so dissociated and attached from their body. But I will tell you, I run a lot of groups in the sense of getting the story work out. It's kind of my main focus right now. And so anytime I'm in front of clients, it's
Right.
neuroscience or story work or both. Like we're tying them together. And if I'm doing podcasts, I'm like, let's do, like, I just want to do
Yeah.
story work a lot. It is not like a lot. And so what I've noticed is people actually just need to be asked, do you notice anything in your body?
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. It's like right here. Yeah. Well, I don't really have a word for it. Well, does it feel tight, pressure? You just start,
Yeah,
and it's their process. It's not my process. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's not, I'm not, like, so for so long in the 12-step realm, it was very Socratic formula based, right? I'm leading you somewhere. I'm going to walk you down this alley and I'm going to show you the pile of shit that was your life. And I'm going to say how bad it was. And don't you think you should change? Pretty much, right? Okay. And it's like we're asking questions that kind of that it's that bumper rails. I'm keeping you in this. There is no lane. You get to say whatever you want. I've done this work where could doesn't do anything. People are like, I feel super pressure when I say could. Okay, let's try can. This can't work. Let's try possible. You just start to play around with language that works for you. I don't have an agenda. I'm not saying, oh, Josh needs to tell me there's less weight when it comes to could. I'm just doing the process, and you know what I mean? So when it comes to that, it's just simple questions and asking people to maybe take a look at their breath. Would you consider a deeper breath? Oh, I feel that. And so a lot of the patients in our program, though, are getting connected to their bodies through the physical activity. So they're already in tune with that. And every group that they do in the physical space, they're asked before they start, what are you feeling? Where do you notice it? It's a skill. So it's not it's a great question because this isn't natural for most people. None of us went to school and learned how to use our language to empower ourselves. None of us went to school and we spent a lot of time learning. I mean, I'm old enough to I went and learned how to square dance. Who gives a fuck about square dancing? Why wasn't I taught how to regulate my emotions? And you know what I mean? These are things that probably should have been happening when we were in school. So now we're at the can place with this detox. We're basically detoxing you off of should, right?
Okay.
So now it's I can be more present, blank. Finish the sentence.
For my family.
Okay. Say that out loud.
I can be more present for my family.
How's that feel?
Good.
Okay. Where do you notice it?
In the top of my belly.
Okay. What does it mean about you that you're willing to go on a podcast with somebody that you have some familiarity with and look at the language that you use around becoming more present, putting yourself out there for 5 of our listeners?
It's gonna be a lot more.
No, I like to joke around. So anyway, and it's probably not good because of the language. But anyway,
It's not.
What does it mean about you that you're willing to do that work, and it's so important to you to be present for your family that it's in your moment right now? What does that mean about you?
I don't want to be long-winded, but like, who would I not be to, like, through a demonstration, invite other people, like, look into this, analyze. Does that make sense?
What does it mean about you that you want to be a demonstration for others?
I want everyone to win.
What does it mean that you want everybody to win? I could do this all fucking day.
Okay.
But, you know,
It's like a literally unending thing, or
no, like, but what does it mean about
like a
you?
Goodwill Hunting?
It means,
like,
so what's the meaning? What's the story? If you knew me, if you saw me and I was talking to Frank and you were just observing the conversation, and you heard me say, it's so important that I become president for my family, what would you say about me?
that's a good man.
Fucking bingo. Say that out loud. I'm a good man.
I'm a good man.
I can be president for my family because I'm a good man. See it?
That's a good one. I can be present for my family because I'm a good man.
Now what do you notice?
I want to cry.
Yeah.
Fucking A. Let's go. Let's go,
Yeah.
dude. I love you,
Say it
bro.
again. Take a breath. Slow it down.
I can be present for my family because I'm a good man.
Just breathe it in. Keep breathing. Low and slow. Doesn't have to be exaggerated. Just get the breath in there.
I want to like move around and touch it.
Do what you gotta do, man. Move around, shake it out. That's the thing, though. People want to know why I'm so hooked on story work. That's why.
Yeah.
So people want to know, why do you get obsessed with? I get obsessed with shit that's potent.
Right.
Like, this is the thing. You just saw it, right? It's like when I do group, and I had a guy last week, and it was about I can do whatever. It did the should thing, and I can do it because he wanted to get a master's degree, and we changed the language, and it was like, this is what happens. Like, they get punched in the face, and they go, "Oh, you're really onto something." It's like, yes, really onto something. It's a powerful, powerful process. Now I want you to think about taking that affirmation with that much emotionality and that much power, slowing it down with breath in the mirror versus, I love myself, which is going to launch you into the next phase of your life.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
Former, yeah.
Because it's got truth behind it.
Yeah.
You weren't even sure where it was going.
Yeah.
It's blocked. It's locked in there. The subconscious, our life experiences, it's got us confused. When we slow it down and we're on a journey with somebody else through this process of story work, it becomes crystal clear who we are. And we take that and we move forward with it. You're a good man. Own it. Allow yourself to be that. Feel it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Damn. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's so like
I
wild
speak to you about
me.
language.
For sure. Constantly.
Constantly.
But what's wild to me is like I'm into it. You know what I mean? Like I was telling Frank and Brian last night, like my wife and I started getting up early, like 3-month-old twins and a 3-year-old. We're getting up at 5 a.m. to sit and read and pray and meditate together in our garage gym before we work out. Like that's the kind of couple we're becoming.
I love that.
And like I'm already in that and still yet plagued with as simple as that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like can't even unconsciously own that like I'm a good man who's already capable of this thing that he's lashing himself for not doing. It's crazy. Well, I don't know if it's crazy. Maybe it's completely normal.
It's both.
Yeah.
I believe. And I've said this on other podcasts, and I had a lot of information. You know what I mean? I spent enormous energy and time, probably too much to my detriment, psychoanalyzing, breaking down, looking at it, and I knew I was fucked. Like I knew it. I was like, I know whatever I put my mind to, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? I'll get it.
I know,
like,
dude.
I'm gonna go after
I love that.
it. I'll get it.
I love that.
I'm committed. I'm loyal. I have all the qualities. I did not think of myself that way. I couldn't see myself that way. In fact, it's a never-ending container that never fills up. I'm only as good for myself as my last effort.
Damn.
So I got to always be an effort, and that wears you down.
Yeah.
And then the subconscious doesn't like repetition. It likes one and done. Mm-hmm. So, I did some work. I did some step work. I met with my sponsor, and then I go about my business. And guess what happens between meetings or therapy sessions or prayer meditations?
I reverse.
It comes back. It comes back, and that's the thing people don't realize is when you start to break free from it, it puts on a giant battle. It attacks you even more. It's having weapons ready so that when that language comes in, now it's like I didn't have anything before I did the Enlifted process. I didn't know what to say. I'm a good person. I did. None of it had any fucking meaning. But if I'm armed with affirmations that I dug from deep within myself that are true, so when that voice starts coming in, I'm a good man. And then I practice it in the mirror, and then I practice it before I go to bed, and then maybe I put it on a recording and I listen to it over my headphones. It's my voice before I go to bed, because the most potent time is right before we go to bed and right when we get up. I start to let that sink into my subconscious. That's my last thought before I go to bed, not all the ways in which I'm going to fail and I didn't measure up. Mm-hmm. That's a never ending. We're always going to have that. That's the gap. The gap is where I am to where I want to be. Mm-hmm. Nothing in the gap is positive. If I go from the gain, which is looking backwards, where did I come from? I came from some 27-year-old kid who screwed up his military career and would steal someone's ID so I could drink because I wasn't old enough, and I would help them look for it and act like I didn't do it, to a guy who puts everything he has into what he believes in. It's just different, So that process gets me fired up. But, oh, damn. Now I know where I want to be. I'm 1 center. I want 100. I'm way off. What do I think about? It's not going to happen. All that language detracts me from where I want to be and where I deserve to be. It's really a worthiness thing. Even today, the last couple of days have had some stuff where my brain I've been really good for a while. And my brain's like, you're not working hard enough. Mm-hmm. You're not this, there's not enough money in the bank. You're failing here. And then if I stay in that long enough, you know what the next thing that runs through my head is? It's all going to disappear. Mm-hmm. And if I start that train of thought, I'm in bad shape.
Fuck that.
So having tools, and how I do it, I lean into people. The things that you're already really good at are, I'm going to get vulnerable. I have a team of people. That's all great. Mm-hmm. But here's my consideration for you.
Okay.
Those are all outside of you.
Okay.
At some point, it has to come from Josh. When Josh takes control of it. And it's confusing because it feels like you are, because you're seeking outside of you.
Yeah.
But the validation for yourself is outside of you. I shared, someone said, man, you did a really good, thank you for doing that. Or the hits, the drug, the most addictive drug I've ever had in my entire life is helping people. It almost killed me because I ran my cup dry.
Yeah.
Because it's a really convenient avoidance.
We were talking about that last night at dinner and after.
When I started to be able to validate myself, where I could go, dude, look what you've done in a year and a half. You've expanded twice. And here's the thing, it sounds so counterintuitive because all the voices in my head are people who are don't let it get to your head. I'm going to give you a compliment, but I don't want it, you don't have to worry about my ego getting too big. You know what I mean? I gotta work on individual worth. Do I feel worthy to just be in this space and occupy this space, right? My language nowadays is that. I did it yesterday with myself. I didn't have to call somebody. I had the ability to, and I could, but what I did for myself yesterday was 2 expansions in 10 months, 16 months in the game, looking at another location. I'm not going to say how many clients we have in our IOP, but a lot of patients are getting services, constantly looking at how to improve, adding more money to the payroll, more to this, more to I'm good with what I'm doing. I'm helping, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I'm not careful, I got a story that it's not working. It's working. And sometimes I just got to look in the mirror and be like, it's working. You're working.
Damn.
Right? right?
Yes.
I mean, even from the time we go to the gym, it's like, oh, quit being a bitch, just pick up the weight. It's like, oh, what about if I walked in and I said, I got this?
Yeah.
Like, I've been training, I've been taking care of my body.
Yeah. I
committed.
have literal evidence that that like will cause me to lift more weights.
I'm up. Like, we live in a society where the normal is to be degrading to self as a way to, or consequences as a way to motivate. And some of it's true, it works to a certain degree. When we get stuck, we have to evaluate a new way to do it. Mm-hmm. And for me, the new way to do it is like, no, I got this. No, I'm not old. I've been in the game a long time. Mm. Right? Mm. And I have to work harder to maintain my performance. Meaning, it's like I could look at it a couple of different ways. I got to do more mobility because I'm an old person, or I'm getting older, or not to do more mobility because I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm at a stage where that's what's required of me. That's two different languages, right? Mm-hmm. Or people say the assault bike, right? It sucks, that Rogue Echo bike, and nobody really gets off a bike and says, damn, that was fucking amazing, I'm so glad I did it, right? But here's the thing, if every time I'm telling myself the situation sucks and I start to practice just in the thing that I'm doing every day, which is in the gym, these are the tools, the tricks of neuroplasticity, reps and sets. How do I infuse this in my everyday life? Mm-hmm. Every time I get on the bike, I'm like, this is fucking good for me, and I'm a badass for doing it. Boom, get on the bike. Yes, it sucks. I can do hard shit. Not all this fucking sucks. And it's like, no, it's if I'm going to come out with it sucks and I can do it. Finish, follow it up. You start to teach your brain and your subconscious that you have a different way of dealing with yourself today. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And eventually what happens is the connection to the process of the bike and what happens when you get off of it starts to become the actual process. So now I'm more motivated to go do the stuff. Now I feel better while I'm doing it. Now less and less stuff sucks, more and more opportunities. You know, the symbol we talk about, even in 12-step recovery and other places for a long time, some circles will talk about the have-tos and the get-tos. Just that language switch. I have to get up at 5 a.m. I get to get up. Mm-hmm. I have to pay all these bills and tax. I can get pissed off about all the taxes and the insurance reimbursements, but I get to, right? And if I don't do that on a regular basis, my brain doesn't, it's not an auto response. I have to be conscious. It has to be like, oh, this is intentional, right?
Mm-hmm. Intention. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
So I get a little crazy, but
no, I love it. I love it, bro.
What a ride.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Be careful when we leave it open to whatever we're going to talk about. I was like, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm really grateful. That was cool.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I was sharing with some stuff with him this morning just about language, our language, and just the actual English language is there's a lot to it, man. So be wary of the words, because our tongue is a sword, bro. The reason we call it spelling is because we're casting spells out into the universe, brother.
Well,
it's a wand.
It was funny because we did a show not too long ago, and Frank was talking about spells, and he doesn't really know the Enlifted method. But in the Enlifted method, it's all about magic and abracadabra, and like the Aramaic meaning for abracadabra is "with my words I create."
No kidding.
So that's where it comes from, right? So it's this idea of casting spells is the definition that we use is that it's a word or a group of words of great influence. That's what my spell, right? So what spells are you casting on yourself? And if the magic wand is the visual, the pen is the wand. Write it out, right?
Yeah.
We talk about no risk, no magic in the Enlifted method. Going deep. And the 4-stepping stories can go from things like how you show up at work all the way to like deep traumas that have been long-standing. I've done some really intense processes with some clients.
Yeah.
You can do it in a group. You know, you could be doing this at your house with your sober guys. You could be doing it with your partner, your wife. You know, are you guys married?
Yeah.
Yeah, your wife. So it's like you could be doing this anywhere. Start to teach the youngsters as they get more language in them. You know, what I mean? Like infusing that.
Yeah.
So very, very potent stuff. And I really appreciate you letting me do that with you because it's so fun for me. Like for a guy who wants to produce effect and change and be value and add value, not be valuable, but just add value. Man, it's one of the best things I've been able to practice for myself, and I'm so grateful that I was willing to go learn it. because it has changed how I present, how I work with clients, how I handle my friendships, and more importantly, how I deal with
Dude,
myself.
it's changed you.
Yeah.
It's changed my experience with you. The man I met the first time we met, I don't know, 6 years ago, something like
Yeah.
that. Like night and day.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of work. I had lunch with a friend the other day, and he said, I never see anybody with long-term sobriety physically change their energy, like the way that, because I sat down at lunch with him, he's like, you're completely, what? He's like, what did you do?
Yeah.
Man, well, I've chased a dream and I did a lot of story work. You know, it's really the two.
And really just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's wild because for me, I didn't come in. It's similar to people who maybe have never tried to quit drinking before. And they're like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and then they get it. Versus the guy who's like tried 100 times and then they get it and it sticks. It's like, you're just, whoa, I had tried everything. I mean, everything. Right before I started this place, I was doing, no joke, 4 to 6 hours over ear headphones, meditations, guided affirmations, but nothing was, I mean, it was like keeping me from bleeding out, but it wasn't moving me into a transformative state. It kept me alive long enough. It was like I was holding onto a life preserver in the middle of the ocean until I could get a boat, which was the Enlifted method. And when I committed to that process, legitimate magic started to happen. And that's where all of us, I think, come from that place of personal experience. Oh, this worked for me. Let me share it. Like, let's go carry the message.
Yeah.
So my message has been, man, if it worked for me, I was so dug in. I was so buried with low self-worth and a total master at self-sabotage. Like, I talk about fragging out with a grin. Like, literally build it up and just walk away, and I did that over and over and over. It's why I love startups. It's why I love chaotic work environments, because it tied into my trauma and the fast-paced nature of like how I was breathing at the time and the messaging, and it would give me an opportunity to fix it, and then I would ruin it on the way out the door, or I would do enough to where I would be asked to leave, and then all that validated, so you're not good enough. Gotta go and do it again.
Yeah.
Gotta go and do it again.
Break the pattern. You broke the pattern. I saw it in you before you saw it in you. The beautiful thing about this whole conversation, and for the listeners as well, is like you have, how many years of sobriety do you have?
10.
20 what? 21, 13. So you have like a lot of sobriety here, and 3 men that come from dark places in our lives, talking about growth, still in our journey. You know, It's a beautiful thing. And look at all the things that we've accomplished in our lives. So I just want to also throw that out there for the people that are still suffering. Like, there's so much hope out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at it right here. You know what I mean? You have like 50 years of sobriety at the table, and we're all serving in all that we do, and creating and elevating and evolving and helping the next man. And it's like, for the listener, it's like hope for you guys as well, that it doesn't matter where you're at in your life, your current circumstance, or where you started. As long as you have hope, the hope will create belief, and the belief will create change. And it's done that here, man. It's a beautiful thing. I just wanted to throw that out there. You know?
I love that.
Yeah, that hope, the messaging. I was talking the other day, and he was a really nice guy. It was way back. I mean, it was more than 21 years ago, because I didn't get sober, but I was in a VA rehab. And I remember the counselor said, take a look around, look left, look right, and know that only 1 in 4 of you are going to make it. That was a pretty common strategy, right?
I heard it.
Now, I understand what they're saying. Really, what they're saying is the majority of people won't put in the effort and are not taking it seriously, and you're one of those people in the corner that's playing on your phone, or you're not going to make it. What I interpreted was, why am I here then?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're basically putting me in this process, and it's got a 25% success rate. And so what I say that basically the same thing, but different in our groups, is that everyone in here can do this. There isn't a single person in this room that cannot recover. What you're willing to do to get there, that's the difference. And how much effort you're willing to put in. And I shoot people straight. Like, this isn't every day, no days off. It's like, we just had this conversation this morning with some people from Alamo, behavioral, and they come to the center and we do some work, and it's no days off. What do you mean no days off? No days off. And you put on the board. The same guy, though, he was brilliant. He did this. And this was 23 years ago, and I'm a knucklehead, so I remembered it. He set you up. And if you want to do this at your sober living, because it's a great way to do so. A great section of groups sometimes. Get the dry erase board and get people giving you a bunch of reasons to not come to group or do meetings, or like what's a good reason to miss a meeting? Oh, my kid's sick. What else? Got to work. Right? We got an opportunity. Somebody comes to town, haven't seen him in a while. Oh, okay. That's on one side of the board. Now, on the other side of the board, I want you to take every one of these reasons to not do the thing and tell me which one kept you from drinking. Yeah, that's what I did. I was like, whoa, because we start to get well, and it's this process of, well, I have this thing, and I'm going to take some time off, and it's like, none of that stopped me from pursuing the drink or the drug. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah. Because I'm the guy that shows up to the home group on, if it snows, if it rains, or whatever. And then, like, the other 3 of us that are there when the other 50 aren't, we're all making jokes like, the holiday wouldn't have stopped them from getting dope. You know?
Yeah, we do a ruck on Sundays, and when the weather came in, some people are like, are we still rucking on Sunday? I'm like, did rain ever quit to keep you from drinking? Oh, no, okay, then we're rucking, you know what I mean? So. Well, cool. I appreciate you guys being here. I know I talked a lot, but I felt compelled to want to share that with you. I think
I'm glad you did.
I'm totally down, man. I'll give you some of my time if you want to explore a little bit more. And
I do.
There's a real process. We can do it on telehealth and Google Docs. It's really powerful. So.
Cool. Josh, the other thing is, where could the audience find you, bro? Instagram. Tell us everything. Your company.
And and add to the end of that. I know you're starting a podcast, and I've seen some names.
Talk about all of this.
Let's get that out.
Talk about all of it. Tell the listeners.
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
One of the owners of Cardinal House, Dakota, and I are slowly but surely putting together all the pieces to start a podcast. And I mean, our hope is really just to like reach a wider audience and similar messaging underlying it all. They're like, hey, there's hope. Hey, you can reach out. You know what I mean? But anyways, we're calling it Stove Touchers because the only way that we've learned lessons is the hard way. And that's not online yet, but all the Cardinal House stuff, Instagram, TikTok, our websites. We've got the foundation website separate from kind of the more functioning, like sober living website, because the foundational.
What are they? You let them know. You gotta let them know what it is.
CardinalHouseFoundation.org, and then CardinalHouseRecovery.com, and then Instagram and TikTok, or just Cardinal House Recovery.
Okay. What about you?
Schwa Jordan on Instagram.
There you go.
Hit me up.
There you go.
He does all that.
It's fun. Frank and I have talked about it, not to get down a whole nother tangent, but like there's an energy transfer to that, right?
Absolutely.
I can get on there at 5 a.m. when I'm, I'm waiting on the coffee to brew, and I just start zoning out, and then it's 5:30. That's 30 minutes gone. Alternatively, I can create content, right? Like I've been doing a lot of like, here's, working out and stuff like that, right? Building a garage gym and continuing. And then people will hit me up like, dude, you got 3 kids, you own a business, you got a job, you're doing all this stuff and you're still working out. And it's, what kind of protein powder should I buy? It's like, dude, don't even fucking worry about that.
Get
dude.
5 sessions in a row.
Yeah, dude, don't ask me what to spend money on. Like, let's go. Like, let's do this together. And like that is real. And like that, awesome. Then the creation of that content makes an impact on people. And then it's like, okay, cool. I'm contributing. I'm not just consuming.
You're packing into the stream of life. There's 2 billion people on social media, on Instagram every single day that you could reach. And here's my thought process, especially after everything that I've been through in my life. Obviously, I feel God has used me again to be able to serve on a greater scale. What better scale than this free platform on Instagram? And who the fuck is missing out because I'm not showing up? Since I've shown up, I've been able to help and serve a lot more people. So that's my mindset with this stuff. And Jason's coming along. He gets tagged on everything. So like he's getting Insta famous too. So that's what we're doing.
We'll have a new affirmation.
Whole new world.
It's a whole new world.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me out.
Man, I'm so glad you did it.
Dude, thanks for coming, man. Yeah. It's been a great few days.
Thank you for connecting with us on today's episode of the Emotion Podcast. where we discuss all things mental health. Connect every week as we explore incredibly intimate stories of persistence and hope. Delve into mental health education and explore valuable resources. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.